Build on that for a second, Rachel. How important do you think networking is?
Oh, 90%. 90. I'm a woman who came from small town Ohio. I've only been in New York for 2 years, and I would say that my network in New York is stellar, based on the fact that as soon as I came in, I was walking around New York City introducing myself. I had business cards on me at all time. It's even when I didn't necessarily, my company didn't have any type of status, I introduced myself as an entrepreneur, even though I had no clue what I was doing necessarily. And once people start recognizing you, they're excited to introduce you to other people. And with the way social media is right now, I have met so many people via Instagram, via Facebook, especially living in New York City. I've been able to see people doing really great things and saying, hey, I'm in Brooklyn. I'd love to be able to meet up with you for coffee to talk about your project. We meet up for coffee. Immediately, they're introducing me to their friends, saying, hey, I met a girl named Rachel who's doing this, and I think she'd be a really great partner for you. So making sure that you leverage every single platform that you're on and you're using, and that you're presenting yourself as someone who is of value so that people are ready to push you and get your name out there. Because once you build that circle or that tribe of people who can vouch for you, really your work will all be within yourself, making sure you're staying creative, making sure that you're staying productive, and you'll literally have a team of people constantly bringing up your name to opportunities that can really make a difference in your career and for your business.
Fantastic point, and I agree 3,000%. Thank you for that, Coss.
I'm going to piggyback off of what Rachel said. I really believe where there's a problem, there's an opportunity. And not everybody has to be an entrepreneur and create their own businesses, but I believe it is a problem and you found a solution and you really care about the solution. And most importantly, I think a lot of people come up with it, the amazing idea, I have the flying helicopter convertible, whatever, and they're like, this is going to make me billions of dollars. I would just ask other people if they want this. Don't waste your time on creating an idea before asking other people and saying if this is a good service, would you use it, and just doing your market research before you just take that leap in starting your business. I teach this to my son. My son is going to be 10 now, and I teach him the same thing my mom taught me. If you don't ask, you don't eat. And when he's like, oh, can you do this, can you do that? Like, can you, I tell him, go ask that person and ask them, and I bet you'll get it. And when you ask, most of the time you should receive. Sometimes you receive a no, but sometimes you receive a yes. And and there's where I took my business and ran with it. I did straight guerrilla marketing when I came home, and I was doing it straight old school, going up to females with yoga pants and running next to them and pitching them and like, look, we're doing this whole fitness thing, or going on, on the train and speaking to people and starting conversations with them and connecting with them. I'm strongly believe in networking. And a model that I really follow is ABC. Always be closing. So I'm going to show you an example of this. I want everybody to take out their phones. Let's go. I know you got a phone. I'm going to take your money. No, I'm just kidding. Not yet.
Soon, though.
And I want you to click on that app called Instagram. I know everybody got Instagram. You know it goes down in the DM. And I just want you to follow ConBody, ConBody. Just follow us. Don't start tweeting and shit. Just follow us. I will follow you back, specifically only you. But that's just an example of always be closing. I don't really exchange cards anymore. I take out people's phones and send out an email with a subject line and start a conversation right away. Always be closing. Always get something out of the person that you want to get something out of. Don't wait and collect a card and put it in your pocket, and by mistake you put it in the laundry and you're like, fuck, I fucked up. Make shit happen now. We have the access to make things happen right away, so utilize it. And that's my motto, always be closing.
Awesome. Coss, you mentioned something interesting earlier about, you always receive something from what you put out, right? And sometimes what you receive is a no. I think a lot of people just intrinsically, deep inside, are afraid of the no. What do you do to get over that fear?
It gets easier, and it's exciting. I don't know. I look forward to it. I take Uber pools on purpose because I know that next person is an opportunity to pitch that person. And when people come in the car, you know, they're usually like stuck in their phone, and I'm like, "Excuse me, how you doing? How's your day going?" And I just start a conversation. Most of the time, I get no, and they're like, "Oh, that sounds good. I'm not really interested." But you know, sometimes I get a yes. But you get that adrenaline rush, like right before I'm gonna tap a lady on the shoulder while I'm going up to them in the street. That is exciting for me, and I look forward to that. And you know, it's like asking a girl on a date. You know, now it's way easier, and you just swipe right or left. But back in the day, you know, and Sultan knows his best, is, you know, we just go up to people and just ask, you know, and it gets easier along the way. I mean, I'm always nervous. I always get nervous every single time I speak on stage or ask or, you know, stop people in the street. But it always gets easier. Practice, practice, practice.
Thank you for that. Hannah?
I actually like that a lot, because when we first started out, I refused to tell anyone about Transfernation because I was so like, oh, it's not finished, like, it's not good yet, like, it's not gonna work. And the first time we did pitch it, it was awful. We got such critical feedback that they were like, you should do furniture instead of food. And so we were about to be a furniture, which is still a good idea, but it's not what we were pitching. And so it took me a long time to actually be comfortable with telling people what my ideas were, because it's like your baby, like, you don't want to reveal it until it's completely finished. But I found that the more that I started pitching it and the more very critical feedback I got, it was difficult to listen to, but it actually helps you move forward with it, because people aren't telling you this to like put you down. They're actually telling you this because this is what people want. Like, if you're building this idea for people, you have to realize that if it's in your head, then you're just building it for yourself. And the first version of Transfernation that we did build, it didn't work for the shelters that we were working with. Like, they were like, we have no idea when the food is coming. We don't have fridges to accommodate this food. And so what we thought was a brilliant, seamless Uber for food waste actually turned out to be more of a problem for the people that we were trying to help in the first place. And so we weren't filling the gap that we thought we were filling for one big part of our process. Like, for corporations, yeah, we were perfect, but where's the food going? It's going to shelters that are redistributing it to thousands of people. And so I think what both of them said about filling gaps and also pitching to people is incredibly important. And I think regarding the future of work, like, it was common before to have, like, you go to college, you learn some skills, you go into a field where that skill is needed. But now, I'm a studio art major. I didn't really know anything about business or food systems or liabilities around that or anything. But now, like, it's the amount that you learn on the job is incredible. So I think the one skill that you should learn is to go for jobs that you like but might make you uncomfortable or that you don't know. And maybe don't go for, like, the big names. Go for a smaller company where you'll actually get some experience. Because from the internships that I worked while I was in college, the big companies make you get coffee. The small companies let you actually do things. They let you, like, talk to clients. They let you sit in on the coding. And it's actually, it's a great experience. And so, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Hannah. Next question. Would you all agree that, and I want you to think back like 20 years ago, right? Would you all agree that the world was a less diverse place 20 years ago?
Right, when I was 9.
Don't worry, I was 12. Okay.
Was that the totality of the question?
No, no, it
Oh,
wasn't.
okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, we probably all agree from what we remember that the world was less culturally diverse. So would you all agree that the world now is more culturally diverse? People tend to be more culturally aware and accepting, of course, because of things like social media, technology, the rise of communication. And as we all know, despite this, diversity is still a hot button topic. We know in the traditional work world, this is a hot button topic. We know in the entrepreneurial space, it's hard to do certain things because of a lack of diversity that still exists. So the real question is, how do you all as business leaders envision the way that diversity will shape the future of work? And how will this affect youth looking to enter the workforce?
I was just telling you that I recently got back from traveling for 4 months, and I was able to go on an amazing trip. I went to a couple of different countries. One specifically, I was in Tokyo, and I stayed in hostels while I was traveling most of the time. And I had my laptop with me. I was working while I was traveling, so it usually invited conversation with other people regarding just work and business and entrepreneurship. And it was the most amazing experience to be able to connect with people from all over the world, from all different ages and cultures regarding what work looks like and feels like, and diversity, especially just in that small subset of people staying in the hostel that I might have been at. And it allowed me to really deep dive into what it looks like to work with people in a million different ways that we might not have thought of before. So I was able, especially with the ADC Collective and what we do, we provide virtual assistant services to entrepreneurs and other modern professionals, email management, calendar management, social media management, travel arrangements, and things like that. Those are things that can be done from anywhere in the world. Our assistants are all over the U.S., and it started conversations with people from around the globe while I was traveling regarding what this would look like if it were a little more diverse, thinking about languages, thinking about industries, if we had VAs who were specific to real estate or specific to certain types of consultants. And so I think it really had my wheels turning about how my company could be more diverse, one, in who we're serving, but also, as Darius was mentioning, having a social aspect to your company. I feel very strongly about financial justice for women in particular, and so giving women in other countries ways to have a financial footing for themselves through virtual assistants or through social media management, just teaching them these skills can bring that diversity in. And I think that when we have the conversation around diversity, we need to not only think about women or race specifically, but as the video said, globalization is a thing, and we need to consider where we fit into that and how we can be most efficient and effective with it. So I'm excited about the way diversity is growing and what it's looking like, and I think we all need to educate ourselves, looking through YouTube, listening to each other via social media, and making sure that we're aware of how other people are thinking and what they're doing in order to make it valuable for our industry, whether you, like he said, you don't have to be an entrepreneur, but whether it's within where you're working, and to leverage it. Diversity isn't just good for the social impact of it. So as an activist, I would love to just say like, oh, it's nice to have different colors in our boardroom, but it's very nice to be able to make sure that we're supporting each other on an entire platform. It's an amazing opportunity.
Absolutely, it's super important. I think it's also important to ask, have there been any challenges that you've overcome regarding diversity or the lack thereof in your career?
Well, there's a certain life you live being a Black woman in the world, and I think that there's a lot of struggles that come from stepping up to the plate and saying, I have an idea and this is something I want to implement, and kind of clawing your way out of the barrel, letting people know that you have something very important that you want to offer to the world. And I think that I've definitely had challenges in being heard, and both within my community and without my community. So it's not just that I'm fighting against some system, it's also very intrinsic as well. And I think the way that I overcame all of those is just being very aware of what my mission is and doing it. I know what I'm doing, I know where I'm going, and if you're in my way, then I'm happy to push you out of it and continue on what I'm working on.
I like that. Coss?
So whoever's seen the Pepsi commercial with the Black Lives Matter, the Kardashian, yeah. So that was a complete failure, and they said it was a failure primarily because there was no diversity. The Kardashian was just like this bougie girl, whatever, that never went through struggle, and they said if they would have used a person of color, and they have proven fact that a person of color would have definitely made a whole change a whole different image in that video, and it would have been a successful campaign. But they got a lot of backlash because they used the wrong person, and using diversity in your businesses, diversity in what you do, or people that you just work with different diversities, brings your company, brings your levels to the next step. In our company, we have 17 people on our team, and most of them are formerly incarcerated men and women, and it's just been an incredible, there's white, Asian, Black, Spanish, every type of race in our company now, and it has just brought in different light, different languages, different levels of education, different, everybody brings something to the table, and when you share different cultures, you just learn more, and you could connect more. I'm going to Mexico in a little bit just because I know Spanish, and I'm gonna be a keynote speaker at some platform there. But just having that different type of diversity and that different type of connection gives me that opportunity to connect with more people and really take this to the next level. I have people that live, from Europe. I have people who are Jewish. I have people who are Muslim. Bringing those different types of cultures and diversity to your company or the people that you work with just expands your opportunity to make more money and do the right thing. And I believe in that.
Real quick, Coss, the challenges you faced in the space?
I faced a lot of challenges, especially when I was starting off my company and I was sharing my story. And before class, I had named the company Coss Athletics, and I had, it was in a 40 font, and then in my 12-inch font, it was prison-style boot camp. So nobody really knew what it was. And people would come, and I would tell them, this is a prison-style boot camp. Are you ready? This is stuff that I learned in the prison yard, blah, blah, blah. And people would be like, what? What did I sign up for? And I've had incidents where one specific incident, for example, I had people, that was one person that was standing in front of the room, and I saw her quick body language pull back. And I was like, don't worry, I only did 6 years in prison, don't be scared. And I tried to give her a high five, and she said, don't touch me. I don't want to associate with you. And she said this in front of 30 other people, and grabbed her bags and walked away. And it's stuff that you have to deal with. There's just people out there that are going to discriminate, and I don't blame her. She probably grew up in different circumstances. Something probably happened in her life that gave her that view. But what we're really trying to do is break down that stereotypes between formerly incarcerated individuals and young professionals. And now that's why we rebranded into ConBody. So we won't, we don't have to hide anything. I build my gym to look like a prison. You go in there, you take a mugshot before you go into class. And I built it that way because I wanted to make a statement. And I didn't want to hide what I did before. I'm not proud of what I did before, but I didn't want to hide, and I was tired of, being ashamed of, leaving the box unchecked, or even lying sometimes and saying, no, I never was incarcerated, and then getting that interview and being turned down because I lied on my application, but I would never get that first step if I would not lie. Just factors like that I have to deal with.
Thanks for sharing that. And Hannah, all the same questions.
Thinking of what the questions were. Okay, but I think when we talk about diversity of race, it's also important to talk about diversity of experience. We launched a pilot program. We launched a pilot program of Transfernation in Pakistan when we were first starting out, and it was interesting because everyone was exactly like me. I'm Pakistani. They all look like me. We all talk the same. But our ideas were incredibly different because we all came from a very different experience. So when I came back here to launch the actual Transfernation, I wanted to focus more on diversity of experience and what skills people brought through their experience. Because like a lot of us don't have the opportunity to travel. Like I lived in 2 countries before coming here for college, so that really I feel in this day and age gave me an edge just because I lived there. But for people who don't have the ability to travel, like how can you diversify your experience given your current situation is what I try and focus on most. And so I feel like given today's job market, we're currently hiring our first full-time employee. And so what I'm looking for, like, I want diversity, but I want diversity of experience mostly. Like, what do you do outside of your job, and how does that inform who you are as a person? Like, we have one applicant who worked in financial services her whole life, but she's a stand-up comedian on the side. And so we got 10 applicants that were from financial services, but she had that little edge because she was a stand-up comedian, and that, I feel like it brings something. It brings a level of diversity that's not race related, it's experience related, which I feel is equally as important.
Absolutely. And just real quick, just the challenges that you face.
Of course. So when I was pretty, well, I'm still pretty young, but when we started, I was 4 years younger than I am now. And so the clients that we work with, especially on the corporate side, are all big corporate white men, and so it was to like put it flatly, but it was very difficult for them to take me seriously because one, I was still in college. We were asking them to pay for a service that they didn't know was going to work yet. I was very young, and they thought that if they pushed a little, I would step back on everything that we proposed. Like things as small as, can you bring the food downstairs to the driver so he doesn't have to get through all the checkpoints? And it was like, no, like we don't have time to do this 2-minute task. And so it took us a long time to start because I feel like if I was older and male, I really feel like it would have gone a little faster. But because you see like someone young who looks younger than they are, which is an added plus, I suppose, only when I'm old, but yeah, it was difficult to get started, but I feel like once we got our first client, it started rolling. But to get that first client, it was actually a close mentors gala that they were throwing. So it was through a connection, which goes back to the point of you should really network, even if it's awkward. I don't like doing it specifically, but I think there's a way to do it that you can be comfortable with it. But it's important to get to know people, but you don't necessarily have to approach it the way that people approach networking. It's kind of an awkward encounter with someone where you like shake hands and extend a business card as you're shaking it. Like I personally don't like that, and it took me a long time to find a way to be comfortable with it, but networking with people actually did really help me overcome many of the challenges that we faced when we were first starting out because they were our first clients.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Hannah. Thank you all for your participation today on the panel. I think we have some time for a couple of questions from the audience. So now is the time to ask. The gentleman over here. And there are microphones. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dale Reyes. I'm an academic and career counselor at Northern Manhattan Improvement Corporation. Thank you for inviting me here. The question that I have, I wanted to direct to Coss Marte. So I know a little bit about your story. I know you grew up in the LES. I am from Washington Heights, uptown Manhattan. So what I wanted to ask you is, how do you deal with the young adults that hear about your story, are learning more about your business now, but they still get enamored with your past? Like, how do you get those individuals to move on to your past and say, yes, I was successful in a sense back then, but that doesn't lead to my future, and what I'm doing now is actually much better for me, and here's why.
I show them the numbers that we're making now, and I tell them like, yeah, I made a lot of money and I did crazy stuff back in the day, but now I'm evaluated as a $5 million company, and I did it in 3.5 years. Now it's just, we've serviced over 15,000 people. I just tell them because it doesn't happen right away. Like we mentioned, it takes a long time. And growing up in the communities that we grew up in, we're used to that instant gratification where you give somebody something and you get $20 back, and that feels good. But running a business and starting a business, it's long-term gratification. And explaining that and telling them to trust the process really works. and I also like relate like my spiritual, story with them. We go into juvenile places, we go to juvenile prisons, we go to kids that are getting suspended and they're going to suspension schools, and we work with a lot of kids and youth now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next question. There's got to be at least one question out there.
So I was looking at the board and I noticed CEO, right? What exactly goes into starting a business or a company and saying that it's yours and it's established and people recognize it? Like, how do you get that off the ground?
Good question.
Like I said, before I even was official, I walked up to people and said, "Hi, my name is Rachel. I'm the CEO of the ADC Collective." So it's really just a point of identity at first, because once you identify as that, you'll do the work. And once people have an expectation of what you're doing, and honestly, starting a business isn't that hard. The official starting a business, you file some paperwork and pay a little bit of money and you have a business, but that's obviously not the meaningful part of it. And in the companies that I run, I'm able, the first thing I always do, and this is just when I'm starting something, you can easily go to Wix.com and get a website up. Darius creates amazing websites as well. You can have, like you said, reach out to people, have a focus group, invite a few of your friends out to lunch or coffee and say, "Hey, I'm starting something, can I get your opinions?" And then once you start doing that, you build processes. What is it going to look like when you get a client? What is it going to look like when you make money? Where's the money going to go? So open a bank account, things like that. So it's really not hard. The mindset is the biggest thing. And once you start getting into a role, you can call yourself a CEO, because you really are, even if you don't have, I'm sure she's been CEO for a long time and she's just getting her first full-time employee. So it's not a lot of the logistics aren't really as heavy as the mindset and putting in the work to do it. So if you have an idea and you say you have a company, you're the CEO. You're the chief executive officer who's executing this, and from there you just need to build that empire, and it takes the focus and the mindset to make it happen.
Yeah, I piggyback on what she said. Is just perception is reality. And once you call yourself a CEO, you just need to believe it, and then it'll become it. And it comes with a lot of roles. It's not the easiest role. Sometimes I gotta unclog the toilet, or do anything, like pick a piece of paper that somebody just dropped on the floor and they never thought about, or dealing with one of my employees and they're having shelter problems, they're having parole problems. Parole wants to put them back into jail for bullshit, So I've dealt with all types of stuff, and a lot of people say CEO this, CEO that, and it seems like an easy role. It seems like you just call the shots, but a real CEO does the work, and I think the most successful person in being a CEO is basically showing up day after day. And I feel like my mom is 63 years old. She works out with me at ConBody 4 times a week. She's a beast. And I think she's one of the most successful persons that I know. And success doesn't mean you have to be, rich and have all the money in the world. I believe success for me is just waking up, working, sleeping, and eating. And if you could live long life and satisfied life, that's real success. My mom does that. She makes $12 an hour, is a home attendant, has an apartment that she lives in, pays her rent, and goes to sleep and eats, amazing Dominican food. So I think that's success, and that's peace, That's,
Hannah, anything to add?
CEO is just a title. Like, I didn't take it on until we needed one according to our bylaws. So, like, it was just 3 co-founders before that. So, like, I think it really, like, if I have, like, one word of advice when it comes to, like, starting anything, it's don't build a hype bigger than your product. Because we did that in the beginning, and there was a lot of hype around, like, oh, transformation. And we were too small for all the people that were coming that wanted to get involved. Like, if you don't, like, build your capacity slowly and don't build that much of a hype, because then you're going to get people who are just riding the wave and they're not really interested in, like, what you're doing. So I think being a CEO for me is, like, it's all about building a good team. Like, I'm very happy to, like, be at the back. I'm an ops girl. Like, I do all the operations. You're probably not gonna see me front and center very much, because, like, I prefer that the people who are helping me, like my team, like, they need to be front and center because they're carrying it. And like, the hype thing is, I think, number one, because just make sure you have people that actually are in touch with what you're doing and support what you're doing from the beginning. So it is all about what people perceive, but it's also, like, you need to live up to the perception. So
Awesome. At that time, we are out of time for questions, unfortunately. I'd like to take a moment to thank all of our dynamic panelists. Thank you for being a part of this. Thank you for being dynamic. And thank you all for being an awesome audience. So in conclusion, I think this morning we've begun to think about how work is changing. I hope this panel has opened all of your minds to possible non-traditional pathways, because the fact remains that typical jobs are going away, and that the type of jobs and careers that you can expect to see popping up in the next 2 decades will be vastly different, and they'll be dynamic, they'll be ever-changing. This panel of entrepreneurs have told us the skills that contribute to their success and how they manage to bring social ideas and values into their businesses, and we thank them once again. Now, before we head off into the first round of breakout sessions, I challenge you to keep this thought in mind. I want everybody in here to think about what skills you can learn personally from these workshops that might help you navigate a changing job market. So in terms of workshops, we have a few. We've got Growing Your Skills for the Green Economy. This workshop will look at a sustainable or green career path. That will happen in room 209. We have Digital Bootstrapping, Solutions to Tech's Diversity Issue, a topic very close to my heart. In that workshop, you'll learn about ways that you can apply your personal experience to tap an untapped market in the digital age. That will occur in room 270 around the corner. Then we have Authenticity, Leveraging Your Unique Identity as a Competitive Advantage. This workshop will explore ways to analyze and navigate different company cultures, and that will happen in room 285. And finally, we have From Uber to TaskRabbit, Find gigs, make money, and launch your career. That will happen in this main room, and we'll give the breakdown on the gig economy and how to start using it to make some extra money. I'm sure all of you want to make some extra money right now, right? All right, awesome. With that, I'm going to shut up again. I thank you all again. Have a wonderful day. This has been awesome.
And just so everybody's clear, workshops are straight down this hallway here, and there's one workshop tucked past the elevators. And I know we're running a few minutes late, but we are going to get everybody out of here on time, so don't worry about that.